Jobsworth, Season 1, Episode 12, Pens, Paper and Purpose. Welcome to episode 12 of Jobsworth, which, save for the epilogue that's coming soon, will be the final full-length episode in our first season. As Jobsworth kicked off with one of the biggest inspirations in my life, it felt right that it should close with the other one. Artist, Sunday Times best-selling author, and my little brother, Luke Adam Hawker. We recorded this a while back, so you have to excuse us discussing the opening tradition to the podcast like it's a brand new shiny thing. And for the superfans of Lisa Hawker, aka Mum, you'll be sad to learn that her famous closing question doesn't feature this time around, and for that, I can only apologise. My brother is one of a handful of people that had a strong idea of what they wanted to do when they grew up from a very young age, and we discuss the earlier part of his career, from landing a job straight out of uni, being headhunted to design palaces for the Saudi royal family, and the reasons behind his move away from traditional employment and what many would consider a dream job. We also talk about his experience of being a self-employed artist, the series of events that led to him becoming a best-selling author, and have a very honest conversation about fatherhood and striking the right balance between his role as a parent and someone that's incredibly passionate about what they do for a living. So, without further ado, for the last time this season, let me introduce you to one of the wisest, bravest and most talented people I know. My brother, Luke Adam Hawker. Hello, Luke.
Hi, brother.
Right, so this is take 2 of us doing this conversation.
Yes.
We have attempted to record this before.
We failed.
We did fail, but that was because I think the dynamic didn't work. And ultimately, I think a lot of that was down to, it turned into what I describe as a family counselling session when people ask me. It became like that. So we're trying it again. The question I'm going to ask you is going to be a tradition in every episode moving forward. So I'm going to start with, when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So I'm currently an artist, but people assume that I've always wanted to be one, but that's not been the case. With seeing Mum being an artist, and it was really difficult and a bit of a struggle. But I knew I wanted to draw, so I remember a big chunk of my kind of really early, like 11 to 13, really wanted to design cars.
I remember that actually, like just seeing scraps of paper with cars on
cars and robots, and I mean, let's be honest, we were both in the geek realm growing up.
Okay.
Which I'm quite proud of.
Yeah, I'm unashamedly so.
Yeah, and so Robot Wars was a thing.
I remember it well.
So designing those, loving that. So a designer, but I wanted to draw for a living. I always kind of had that guiding force. Guiding force? I don't want to say guiding light.
But that direction. So really, even though you claim that is not knowing what you wanted to be from a young age, having an eye that you wanted to even be in design is quite
so not
similar.
knowing what I wanted to be,
apart.
not knowing what I wanted to be, but knowing what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Loosely enough.
Because you started fairly early, didn't you? Like now you're an artist, and you started that path fairly early. I mean, you always had a talent when we were growing up, but when you started that for education, so I guess through GCSE when it kind of started, but you don't have too much selection of the classes you want to do. But then college, what did you do at college?
Graphic design technology, fine art,
Exactly.
physics.
So yeah, and then you went on to do a
foundation art, then interior architecture and design.
Okay, so you are someone that I would describe as having quite ingrained in you this feeling that you had a vision of what you wanted to do, or at least talents that you had, and that how you could make that a career or a living or make money from that.
Yeah, and also knowing, I think, my weaknesses, if I'm honest. So I was good at one set of skills that was quite specific, and not so good at the other ones. So in a way, sometimes it's your limitations that can lead you to your strengths, I think.
Yeah, I can understand that. So when you talk about your limitations, what you mean is maybe more of what would be broadly or societally classified as academic subjects.
Yeah, and exams.
Exams, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that's most of academia really, is kind of sitting you in a room and being like, perform, which is just not what I did very well. I
mean, you've gone on to show that you have got academic chops though, haven't you? Both I think growing up, it was maybe, if I can be so bold as to say this, I was kind of leading the way in terms of academic.
Yeah, that was your thing.
That was my thing. And then as we got older, you started not only to just like nip at my heels, but then not that it was a competition.
I didn't think so.
I didn't think so either. It's fine. And but yeah, you were nipping at my heels, and then all of a sudden, I think you far surpassed
in a specific knowledge range, because I obsess and went specific from that early age, whereas you were always broader. Always had, I think, more of a natural ability to think in terms of writing.
Yeah, maybe that.
Putting it down in words, whereas I was never really that strong at doing so. So
yeah. Okay, that was a good answer to the question what you wanted to be.
I learned a lot there about both of us.
Yeah, it's quite insightful though. So Luke is my brother. He is also a Sunday Times best-selling author and a freelance artist. So Luke was one of the main reasons I started Global Tech Collective. Him and my mum, just seeing them, I think, take the path to working for themselves and moving away from the standard or stereotypical forms of employment that were open to me, really. So I have a lot to thank him for, and I don't think he's quite aware of how inspiring he is, but we'll tap into that now. I'm going to make him uncomfortable by just keep giving him compliments.
Please don't.
But maybe start, Luke, then, by talking to us a little bit about your journey in employment, first of all. So you do, quick timeline, go back to
I'll be
your
quick
education.
as I can.
Yeah, education first. So start from education up to your first job out of university.
So from uni. So I studied interior architecture and design.
Where did you study that?
Nottingham Trent University. And then part of the course, and the reason I chose it was, so in the third year I spent working in London. So it's a sandwich year course, so that was like really appealing that they would just send us out into the industry and we'd live and work in London for a year, and that was the best year of education, just getting out there, as most people will probably find the real world is. And then when I graduated, I worked for a branding agency, so doing like interiors but linked to brands. Then I went to more of an architectural firm and did architectural projects, small scale architectural projects, and then I was headhunted for more of an interiors role, but like a concept designer role. So where they saw what happened was I was getting drawn into this CAD, working on computers, not where I wanted to be, and people saw from my portfolio my drawing ability and then hired me specifically for that reason. And that's where things went really well for me, because I was drawing on my strengths, no pun intended, and stood at the drawing board and just creating and getting recognition and I guess the financial reward for that skill. It was really good. And then alongside that, I was drawing for my own satisfaction and just going out into London and drawing to kind of connect with it. Eventually I built up this body of work where I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go and try and sell some at exhibitions and markets. Got to the point where I was covering my rent and then quit my job to pursue that in 2015.
Oh, 2015. Has it been that long now? So 8 years you've been freelance?
Yeah.
You don't like freelance though, do you?
No. I think
because you run your own freelance. Yeah, go on.
Well, it implies that the projects are client-led.
Okay.
I don't know why. They were early on, now they're not.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. So you went through a number of firms before making the decision to go on your own and start Luke Adam Hawker as it is now.
I brought my middle name into the equation.
I know. Why did that happen? Just quickly, I don't want to go off onto too much. But
so you got to realise, when I was a designer, I was Luke Hawker. And then alongside that, I wanted to push my artistic portfolio and like me as an artist, right? So I didn't want them clashing. Yeah. So I brought in my middle name. Yeah. That also made me more unique when it comes to searching.
Right.
So if you put Luke Adam Hawke, you're gonna find me. If you put Luke Hawke, you might get some Kiwi actor.
I was just about to reference the actor. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do get a few. So there's that reason. Part of me regrets that, but I don't think I could have done it any other way.
It is your name as well. Like just to confirm, Adam is your middle name.
Yeah, but it's clearly the stronger name, because I'd say about 30% or more emails start with "Hi Adam." My email is Luke@LukeAdamHawker. Hi Adam.
That to me is just laziness.
And in person, it's not. It's something going on, because a big chunk of people do it.
It's a good name. So you got to the point, you made this decision to, I call it jump or leap into working for yourself. But take us through a bit about the journey that took you to even thinking this could be a potential option for you, and how much of that do you think was influenced by our main role model, which was Mum working for herself as well?
Yeah, so she's obviously played a big role, but I'd say the inspiration from Mum was more impacting at a younger age rather than when I took that decision. It wasn't a case of looking at what Mum was doing and thinking, I can. It just wasn't. I think early days, her encouragement and proof that you can kind of put value to those skills, that influenced me in a more subconscious level. But when I took that decision, it was more of I felt like I'd achieved a lot as a designer, as an interior designer effectively, and had travelled a fair bit, and I was kind of in a place where I was like, well, the only way up here is away from creativity. Because a lot of people in design firms probably understand that actually to go up, in terms of up that ladder, then you're going to get further away from the activity that probably brought you into the industry in the first place. You become project manager, you're spinning plates, which is hard, but further away from probably your strengths, especially for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought, why not try?
I think as well what you described there is getting sucked into that kind of ladder of progression is a situation a lot of people find themselves in within any industry, not necessarily creative, but sometimes the tools that you use to get you the kind of recognition that gives you those opportunities to progress, what they tend to mean, progression opportunities, is usually people management.
Yeah, always. Because then you've got more control of a bigger part of the company. And
which appeals to some, because you need people that have that skill set and want to manage people. But again, from my experience, I was in an agency for 7.5 years, got an opportunity to progress, or I was 6 years in at that time, and then was given this opportunity to progress into a management role, and it was really, I think, what tipped me over the edge to leave anyway, because it just didn't fit my strengths. And
yeah, I mean, you could perform in that role. I could not have done it. I find really difficult to commit to something I'm not fully behind.
You can say passion. I know I banned you from saying passion.
No, I'm going to try not to say it once.
Okay, so we get to this point, you've had your more traditional forms of employment, and you decide to take the leap. Do you remember, considering it was now 8 years ago, the conversations you were having with people around that time? Was it met with support? Was it met with further questioning that started to make you doubt yourself at all? What do you remember anything about that time?
Everyone got behind me, and everyone said, yeah, do it. Because I think they knew that what was the alternative? What's the alternative for me is just regret. Nobody wants that, especially your loved ones. And I don't have a huge pool of friends that I'm regularly speaking with. So it'll be you, Lizzie at the time, and Mum, and Harry maybe.
Yeah. Lizzie is Luke's wife.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't at the time. She was my friend. Girlfriend. It's.
We don't need to go. We don't need to go into detail on that. And Harry is our dad as well. Yeah. Just to clarify. I mean, I didn't really mean from our perspective, because I know that you're always going to be getting support, and we'll champion what I think us as a pod or as a family have always been very supportive.
I like that. Pod. Killer whales.
Yeah.
Orcas.
Oh, nice. Okay. But as a family, we've always been supportive of whatever any of us want to try and do. And then I guess my focus was more around colleagues. And then how did your boss at the time, or the people that managed you, when you said what you were going for, did you tell them that you were leaving that business to go and start on your own?
I can't remember.
Okay.
literally can't.
Honesty, refreshing.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember I remember just feeling really excited to hand my notice in. Probably good to explain that I wasn't truly invested in the projects that I was working on.
Talk to us a little bit about this, because when I, especially at family parties, I go and me and you stood next to each other and we talk about what we do for a living. My piss-takey introduction for you is, Luke used to design palaces for the Saudi royal family, and I'm just a recruiter. To which most people go, what do you really do, John? I'm like, no, I'm literally just a recruiter. But tell us what you did, because it's interesting. Outwardly,
I don't like that.
I know, but that's fine. That's me being self-deprecating. But outwardly, it sounds like what you were doing would be a dream job for a lot of people that are training or studying in your space.
Yeah, I got that job for a recruiter, mind you. And so basically I was working for the Saudi royal family, and it's not actually something I'm proud of saying at all.
Okay.
It was really fun, no budget, brilliant, memorable stories, travel experiences. So I don't regret doing it, but there comes a point where you're looking at the projects and you just what you're leaving behind is just not what you really should be.
That legacy. And I guess a lot about what you were doing at the time was the legacy you were building, and because you're leaving like a tangible thing behind you, aren't you? Or your input is helping to build a tangible thing that might stand for centuries, like literally.
Yeah. And I'm happy that I created some spaces that I was really proud of, but it's kind of who's enjoying them and in what way.
Understood. Okay. So in moving to being self-employed, self-employed is right, isn't it? Because you were self-employed. Yeah. Okay. So moving to self-employed, you had this autonomy to do the projects you wanted to do. What you were after was probably trying to find something that you were more engaged by and was more meaningful.
Yeah, and I already had all the ideas in my head. So it wasn't like leaving a job and being clueless as to what to do. It felt like I was like off the starting block and had the time to do it.
You had a direction.
Had a direction that I was kind of running in parallel a long time in my work. So for a big chunk of that work, I was just disengaged with the job and doing my own bits alongside it.
When you were disengaged and when maybe you felt like there wasn't meaning behind the work you were doing, did that impact you in any negative ways? Some of the studies I've read about lack of meaningful work can lead to low mood, even depression as well.
No, I felt like back in those days, I just felt really resilient to lows, really. And it's only in recent years where I've experienced the realities of that side of things, mental health coming in,
Yeah, okay. So 8 years on, it's fair to say that it's not a fluke that you're still working for yourself. There's been some huge success that you've had along the way. What are some of the biggest achievements you've made in the last 8 years that you're most proud of? Just specifically on work.
Okay,
if you say little Harry, I appreciate having a son. It's a massive achievement. Yeah. No one cares. Okay. Talk to us about your biggest work achievements.
So I go for it. Early days was just growing that online sales year on year. So I used to sell a lot at markets, and that might sound a little bit strange, kind of pursuing a career in art and selling at markets, but it was such a great way to just tap into an audience just passing by. And actually, if you can captivate an audience that is just walking by in the street rather than gone to a specific exhibition, you're doing quite well. So I felt confidence from that. And then, year on year, so for the first 3 years, my online sales were doubling each year. That gave me confidence and enabled me to invest. One of my biggest career achievements, which was my trip around Europe, which I view as both a life goal and a career achievement, because my purpose for traveling. So just brief recap of the trip, brief.
Go for it. No, I love a recap.
So I did 3 months around Europe in my camper van called Brian, and just drawing. So my sole purpose of traveling was drawing 11 countries, just traveling through all these new experiences. I felt like I did a lifetime of traveling and a huge body of work, which then I got back and I just felt like I'd kind of shaken off the interior designer look.
Right, okay.
And was
so
now,
shed that skin almost.
Yeah, and just felt really positive about the future, which was nice.
Yeah.
2018, that was. So
yeah.
Probably whilst the whole Brexit thing was definitely happening.
Hadn't happened because
hadn't
that would have
happened.
been slightly more difficult.
So I had that freedom, which is, anyway, I won't get into that, but had that
not
freedom.
A political podcast, yeah.
Which just built me up really. And I had times I was really lonely, so had to bring in kind of that mental health tools of just being a bit more resilient to that loneliness, which I hadn't really felt throughout the trip. Yeah, it was just formative. So then after that, other big achievements. So Westminster, Big Ben, covered in scaffolding for renovations for some years actually. 2018, I went along to draw it at my easel. I'd never really been interested in drawing it. I shy away from things that are too iconic. They come across as quite kitsch when you're just covering the same ground everyone else has. So this was something new, and I think that something that embodied what was going on at the time, Brexit. And so that ended up being picked up by the Parliamentary Art Collection, went to committee, I sold to the Parliamentary Art Collection, found I had enough money from that and a number of commissions through Soho House to build up enough money to buy a house. Not in London, sadly, so I moved out, but I'm really glad I did now. So I see that as like one achievement. I know it sounds strange. I should be breaking this up more. I'm going through my life. I'm sorry.
I would have definitely been surprised if you hadn't picked Big Ben and selling that to Parliamentary Art.
I could say why it feels really big for me.
Yeah,
it's because it's definitely one of my artworks that will be looked after long after I'm gone. And that legacy.
Yeah. Talk to us about that. So actually having a piece of work bought by the Parliamentary Art Collection means what for that piece of work?
It will be housed in Parliament and protected for as long as Parliament exists.
Which I would imagine would be
a long time, I hope.
A while. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I was there at the unveiling of that. Obviously, we knew about it having been acquired, but I was there at the unveiling. I can't remember what part of not Westminster.
Westminster.
What part of Westminster it was at, but I just remember it being a big occasion, lots of people queuing to get in, and it was a really big evening.
Good fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, yeah. Wow, okay. So, I mean, for me, just interjecting as well, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your arse because you're my brother, but things like creating a book, quite a big deal.
Yeah.
Then creating 2 books, I think quite a big deal as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not the career, not the goal that you had when you first started setting out to do something like this as well. So talk to us a bit about the book together, because that was a project that culminated during one of the most trying times for people around the world. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so books I'd never imagined creating, but I've written about this actually before. I've not been a big reader, you'll know this.
Yes.
So sketchbooks were kind of my thing, and I never really saw the potential to publish, I guess, my artwork. It hadn't really crossed my mind in book form. And then we came up with the idea, we being me and you, to come up with a project that was inspired. So you write poetry. Maybe people don't know that, but you do. It's amazing.
Thank you very much.
So we came up with the idea that we'd make a book, or a body of work at least, where I would draw an image that was kind of based on my imagination, really, and then John would write a poem about the image, inspired by the image. And I put that out on my Instagram, and that combined with a lot of more reflective work about what was going on around the world, I think was picked up by a publisher, Marianne Laidlaw, who saw the potential in my work. Sadly not John's work.
She wasn't a fan. She wasn't a fan of the poetry.
Well, poetry is anyway, we won't get into that.
Doesn't sound.
So I ditched John on this journey of making a book. That's what it sounds like, but
I am mentioned in the acknowledgements though, which is nice.
You are.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going on this journey of creating this book through lockdown. It took 3 months to create. It's an image-led book. You might say picture book or graphic novel. And it was a very personal project. So it's based on our late granddad, Brian. He was the main father figure for us growing up. So it was me, my brother. I can't say my brother looking at you.
Who are you talking to? Are you talking to me?
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just double checking.
I was just very aware people might be listening. Maybe one or two.
No, maybe they are. I don't know.
So it wasn't it,
Hi,
John.
Mum.
It was me, you,
Yes.
Mum, and Granddad for the majority of our formative years. And where am I going with this? Oh, so the book. So he's the main protagonist, along with my current dog Robin. And so I went back through a lot of those memories, and I was trying to encapsulate his kindness and empathy in this book, because I thought that would make the perfect character to lead you through this storm, which forms a metaphor for COVID and lockdown and etc. So that was really well received, and became Sunday Times bestseller. It's in 11 languages. It was quite a big moment.
Quite a big deal.
And led to the next book.
Yeah. And the next book is The Last Tree.
It's The Last Tree.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's been an amazing part, I think, of your journey to observe as well and witness both it sounds like a cliche, but the blood, sweat and tears that you put into actually creating these bodies of work and then turning them into books, and it's just incredible. But then to see it received, so I think it's a dream just to publish, and then for it to be really successful as well just shows that what you're doing is it's not just me and Mum think it's good.
Yeah, that's nice.
Which is quite nice.
People agree. But the second book took a hell of a lot longer than 3 months to create because of my son coming along.
Yeah. So talk to me then about the impact of little Harry. So Harry's my nephew and your son, but little Harry coming along, on what it's like to work for yourself. Because, I mean, we can both maybe share some stories around this as well, but what's your experience been as a dad, and a dad that works for themselves? And, it's just being full transparency is the primary earner for your household as well.
It's hard to compare. So I can only give it my perspective, but I can't say if it was... So it's been really difficult, because you have the freedom to spend time, which is amazing, but then it's like it swings back in your face because then you've got the anxiety and guilt about not putting as much time into your work as you should be. But then there's this whole question mark about how much time you should be putting into your work when you have this new human that you've created and need to really invest in. So I really struggled, but also I realised that I needed to make a change. So I now have an assistant, Laura, who's in those early days especially was really integral to just keeping things going. So I send prints out regularly for my online sales and still do markets. So there's a lot that I still have to do, but things inevitably slowed down. And I felt like far less of an artist, and it's because I attribute so much of myself to being an artist. So this is the drawback of pursuing your passion so wholeheartedly, is that when you have to make sacrifices around it, you feel them on a really personal level. It's not just a financial hit, it's what am I now? And I think everybody feels it to a degree when they're a parent, this loss of identity.
Yeah.
So I just think that maybe you can feel it more acutely when you really do want to be cracking on with those projects that just...
And we've had this discussion before. I think there's a lot of guilt around that as well.
Oh.
The guilt that comes from wanting to invest time in something you genuinely care about. Two things you genuinely care about, but one being this thing that was built before your babies come along, and that ultimately supports and enables you to have the lifestyle you have and your family have, and also this human being that you were fortunate enough to have a conscious decision about wanting to bring into the world, and how much of your time you want to invest in that. And for me, what I find really difficult is at times when I'm in the office, I will sit here thinking I should be at home with the kids, and there are times when I'm at home with the kids when I should be thinking I should be really at work.
And you're nowhere.
And I'm nowhere. You're stuck in this kind of purgatory, basically,
Guilt purgatory.
where both sides of your head are just beating yourself with a stick. So it's quite a brutal mindset to get in.
So do you think that, because neither of us have experienced fatherhood through employment, traditional employment, having a boss, do you think that the challenges are greater? I mean, it's hard to know. We need someone else really that has gone through it. Because I feel like although they've been great, the challenges, being self-employed, I just could not have made it through, nor could my family have made it through without that freedom to say no. Maybe nothing's going to be getting done at all for the next 2-3 weeks because I need to be there. And I know it's part because my son has had extra needs along the way, but I just can't fathom it. And I feel for people in that position because they might be listening to us thinking, oh, that's the guilt issue. Although we know it's a very big one, having it more like a fear of losing your job, that anxiety might even be greater or not, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. My experience, so there was a time where I sort of transitioned from your stereotypical form of employment into working for myself around the time that Finley was 1. So Finley turned 1 literally as I was starting Global Tech Collective. But when Finley was born, so Finley's my eldest, he's now 5 years old, but I want to say 5 days after he was born, he lost a drastic amount of weight, and we were back in the hospital for 3 or 4 days. So ultimately, all I was given at the time were 2 weeks of paternity leave.
Madness.
And regardless of what happened, I had to be back into the office after that point. Now, if I compare that with how long I took off for Bodhi when he was born, so Bodhi's now 2, I probably...
You've just gone back.
Sorry?
You've just gone
back.
back.
Yeah, just gone back. Yeah, I've just gone back to sort of normal working hours. But no, I think when Bodhi was born, I had that time and the autonomy to be like, okay, I will gradually allow myself to get back into this. And I'll admit this. I don't know if I'll admit this to my other half. She will listen to this, so I'm admitting it to her anyway. I was writing emails, sending offers out to candidates in the very early stages of when she was in labour with Bodhi as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I'm not proud of, but ultimately the labour lasted.
You're not doing 14, it for fun, are you?
No, the labour lasted 14 hours, so I didn't feel like I was going to get in too much trouble. I wasn't doing it as Bodhi was arriving.
Some people were checking like football results and things like that. So I think you're doing.
I was pretty engaged, but I think I had all of that autonomy. So actually the sort of formative months of Bodhi's arrival was so much. I just felt so much more present because I could invest myself in the way that I wanted to. So yeah, I have no doubt that maybe people that are listening to this that are still employed and have a boss, especially a boss that isn't understanding, will be thinking, what a privileged position for us to be in, being dads with our own businesses that can build that around our families.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that. So it's not like
I am. Yeah, I think if I zoom out far enough, then
you look back, you think, what are the alternatives? Yes, it's been really hard, but step back. Yeah. What are the alternatives?
Well, this is the other thing as well when we talk about work-life balance, and I think for a lot of people that work for themselves, you'll hear, I wouldn't say horror stories, but you'll hear really negative stories of people that just don't have a work-life balance. For me, when you're self-employed, it's more about work-life integration. And then when I zoom out, okay, if I look at any given week, my work-life balance probably isn't as good as it might have been when I was working for someone. Zoom out over a year, my work-life balance is a hell of a lot better. Because whilst I might commit 2-3 weeks where I've got my head down and I am working hard and I'm prioritising work over things like health, unfortunately, and sometimes relationships and a bit of self-care, well, actually, I combat that by giving myself a lot more time after as well. So would I have got that flexibility working for someone?
Definitely not.
100% no. So yeah, that's a really good point. And I think businesses now that are starting to offer enhanced paternity policies or parental leave in general, I think they're the ones that are going to be able to attract people and retain people moving forward. Hopefully it's going to be a rarity in the future that we're going to see 2 weeks of paternity leave.
It has to be. And also just the nature of choice, and that's what people have when they choose a job, hopefully, is that it means the companies will only benefit from the more they offer. Yeah. So they're going to get the best staff, because more than ever now people are looking at the salary and, well, this is kind of what I've learned from you, looking at the salary and the package around the salary.
Yeah.
And it really matters, probably more now than ever.
Well, because it doesn't matter at all if you've got a huge salary and remuneration in terms of
what goes
into your bank account. You've not got the balance to actually go out and use any of it as well. So talk to me a little bit more as well about some of the specific challenges. You've been working for yourself for a period of time. Harry comes along. Harry's now 2. What were some of the specific challenges that you faced between juggling this new job, which is fatherhood, and the existing job, which is running Luke Adam Hawker?
So for a big chunk of that, for his existence, I've been working on the second book. So I would say, and this might be very specific to a creative project, but your head is in it. So I'm lucky that my family is very tolerant of me being a daydreamer, and I think I always have been.
100%.
Not so very rare am I, the whole time I'm with someone, I'm fully present, and that sounds really bad. I'm not like kind of looking down on my phone or anything. It's just me thinking about other things. And actually, when I have a creative project, I'm doing that a lot more. So when I'm going for the family walk in the woods, I'll end up talking about the project. And actually having a partner, i.e. my wife, who is really creative herself and supportive of my work, I don't think anybody else would tolerate me unless they found that side of me interesting.
Yeah.
So the challenges were just on the time front, right? So prioritizing where to spend my time, in the studio or at home. But they're a 3-minute walk away, and I can have Harry at the studio for a bit with Liz. So I guess, to be honest, I'm finding it harder as it goes on, because at first you're telling yourself, oh, this isn't for long, and eventually I'll be able to just go full steam ahead with my creative work.
Yeah.
And in that time, whilst things have been more focused on either mainly on my family and then my book, everything feels a bit like a side hustle in relation to your family.
Yeah.
And now I want to give so much more to my projects, which I have been doing probably in the last month, but then you've got that guilt creeping back in. So I would say that it will probably never really go away. It's just that you become the people that you're feeling guilty about letting down, more kind of let you know in a transparent way that no, you're not letting them down. Yeah. And then that kind of takes away the guilt. It's not through a lack of juggling, it's through an increase in communication and understanding between the people you care about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's that transparency between the people that are impacted by what it is you're doing, and that time you're spending away from them is key, isn't it? And it's funny you bring up that the role of Lizzie, your wife, in being that partner and that cheerleader, and someone that you can also use as a sounding board. I think a lot of the people I've spoken to reference someone in their life, not always their partner, but someone that acts as that, whether it's inspiration, whether it's someone that can level you slightly, whether it's someone that can give you free therapy, whatever it is.
And just real frank feedback.
Yeah.
Honest feedback on the projects I'm doing, which is really useful because I think it's quite rare. And then also, on the other hand, when I'm feeling low, then she'll remind me of my achievements, and that will move towards like lifting me out of that.
Yeah, because it's one thing when your family do it, as in like me and mum, and hopefully we're always being honest about it. But I think it's fair to say that mum's default position is, I'm gonna make you feel better by just giving you every compliment under the sun. 9 times out of 10, she's a hyper positive
I think
person.
she genuinely feels that.
I don't disagree at all, but sometimes you need outside external parties away from that nucleus telling you, they could even tell you exactly the same thing, but just having that conversation makes a huge difference. So a question I've got for you then, would you ever go back into full-time employment with a boss, that kind of stereotypical world of work?
Definitely not. But
why?
I guess it all comes down to time and freedom to spend my time, which is the ultimate wealth.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of anything, we're all, like, let's say averages, right? We all live to, say it's 75 or 80 probably now. We all live to 80, and we've all got this allotted number of hours in our lives, if we're lucky. And how are we spending it, regardless of how much money we're bringing in? How are we spending that? And if I look back on my life and think I've done my best to spend as much as my time here doing the things I love and the things I am passionate about. I know you hate the word passion, but it's important. It's an important one. Then it will lead to less regret and more fulfillment and more purpose. So I would never. I shouldn't say never.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because I say exactly the same thing, and I'm quite outspoken about this on any platform that they allow me to put.
That's interesting though, because your role in many cases is finding people to work for other people.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting.
So I did it. So I worked for someone else and within a larger company for long enough to know something about myself, which is I don't necessarily want to prescribe to what normal work looks like, especially in the sector that I operate in as well. I think that allows me a perspective that better starts to filter the clients I do want to work with as well. Because not only does it take a lot for me to ever think, oh God, could I really work with them? Actually, that's the barometer that I measure the clients that I work with by. There is an element of me that thinks, could I get behind interviewing with you? If you were interviewing me, would I find you someone that I could work with? Is the sort of mission you're on inspiring or lighting something within me as well? And I actually think I've used my experience to build stronger relationships with the people that I go on to place as well, for that exact reason, because I know what it would take for me to go and work for someone again.
Yeah, and
hell freezing over.
And I guess that. But what's interesting, even though that's an illogical stance for a recruiter, traditional recruiter, that goes in your favour because people will see that you're being honest, and I think that matters more than
people just want to know
the sales pitch.
Yeah, people just want transparency and honesty and a frank conversation as well.
So just to clarify, you would advise, everyone listening, John would definitely advise you to not work for anyone. Don't work for anyone else.
That's not what I'm saying.
So all of his clients, bear that in mind.
Yeah, I'm basically just pushing.
Yeah, go self-employed.
This whole narrative
come on.
of work for yourself. But the amount of people I speak to have had really successful careers in employment. Maybe that's been interspersed with interim or contract engagements where they're essentially working for themselves. Anyway, anyone that calls me and says, John, I'm thinking about working for myself, I will always say, do it. I will always say do it. For one of the reasons you gave, which is, do you want to regret not having done it or looking back on your life and thinking, I gave it a go? Because I know from my experience, I spent 7.5 years in recruitment and I was unhappy. Not just unhappy in the organisation, I didn't like what I was doing for a living. Within 2 or 3 months, bearing in mind that in another 3 months' time after I kicked Global Tech Collective off, there was a pandemic, I would still say during the pandemic, I was still happier than I've ever been in employment, working for myself. So I would always bang the drum to say people should do what they want to do and follow their, I'm doing air quotes here, passion, because
why have you brutalised the word passion so much?
I haven't brutalised it. I just think it's such a cliche, and I think so many people
I disagree.
That's what it's all about. Well, that's what it is about. But
Not enough of it in the world, I don't think.
Passion?
I don't think there's enough of it. Genuine passion for things.
So
life, work, whatever.
And I'm not.
Apathy is on the rise and passion is going down.
So the point, I agree with you. Maybe it's not as bleak as you're making it sound, but turning your passion into work and into your career, that's what I have a problem with, only when people are starting to peddle that as that should be the thing you want to do. Because sometimes your passion and your work can be completely separate.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes something you start by doing as a job, you can become passionate about. But what I've got an issue with, so I'm passionate about gardening, but right now, if I have no goal at all to make that into a career anytime soon, because I feel like it would just strip the joy and the experience that I have out of that endeavour.
Really? So there's so I went to discuss a collaboration with National Trust up at Polesden Lacey.
Are you name
recently.
dropping, not Polesden Lacey? Are you name dropping National Trust?
No.
I mean, you can do, it's fine.
Yeah, so anyway, my point is, when they said to me, I met the head ranger, and they said, oh, well, we're looking for rangers at the moment, but when people aren't coming forward. I wondered if I started putting myself in that, how I think I could get a lot of joy from that kind of job, because I love being outdoors, and there would be something nice about just your role being to look after land. I started thinking about you, I just see you doing it.
That is one day where I a job where I'm outdoors.
I'm just putting out as like an actual opportunity. It's all well and good saying, well, gardening, because you might struggle to picture it. But if somebody has this opportunity,
well, yeah, I guess.
So do you want me to send them an email?
Yeah. Shall I put my CV together?
Hell freezing over, or arrange a
role for the National Trust that my brother just mentions once. Yeah. So my problems with passion are not about people using the word passion. It's just that I think if you are always in your head driven to try and turn your passion into a career or be passionate about what it is you're doing, I think that can lead to a lot of discontentment and unhappiness.
Destruction. Yeah, I agree. So it's something that is not I would not blindly endorse, but I'd say in most cases, then people should probably do it. But whereas you're more reluctant to...
I'm more reluctant to it, but also I think it's, there's that cliche term that I can't remember word for word, but it's better to regret having done something than sit there regretting never having tried to do it.
Within the law.
Within the confines of the law. Thanks, Luke. But yeah, I think I will always back people that want to do something off their own back, because I think I will always be honest about the challenges that you're going to face doing it, but I think it's a good way to focus your energy. Anyway, 8 years in, your experience of being self-employed has been a positive one on the whole. The challenges of fatherhood have been present, but you've overcome those as well. Exactly the same story for me, I think, as well, in having done those. Is there any one thing in the not too distant future that you're excited about, a project that you're working on that you just want to share?
Yeah, so I guess a new direction. So one thing, summarise that I've been working from observation, so I'll go and take my easel and try and capture a sense of place. Normally around London, because I'm kind of very much based around London. And I think gradually over time it's moved away from architecture and more towards nature, and specifically trees, ancient trees. And that's led me into this whole world of our connection, societal connection with nature. So exploring that and seeing how I can use observation from two different locations, multiple locations, to create a whole new, more surreal, imagined sense of place. And just kind of be more conceptual with my work. I do feel really excited about just experimenting more, developing more, and in all honesty, creating shows that do sell out and captivate collectors, and all the signs are right for that happening. I've been selling more original work, and I've got an exhibition at the end of the month which I'm really hopeful for. So yeah, just I guess the direction is what
Yeah.
I'm about, and just going back to my career as a designer, not feeling fulfilled in terms of legacy. I'm moving closer and closer to where I feel really content, not pride, but just content with what I'm creating, leaving behind messages behind my work, and the people I'm working with, the collaborations that I've kind of got lined up that I think are all in line with my ethos.
Yeah.
Which has kind of developed and is now something I'm quite proud of.
It has been amazing to see that journey as well of that style, and also your commitment to where you want to go, and having that strength of mind to really get behind that direction that you're pressing in as well. And I feel like your focus, your goal has always been quite clear to you, and there's very little that can throw you off that course. And things will obviously get in the way, and there'll be speed bumps. But ultimately, I've always seen in you, from even in your, I'd say as early as your sort of late teens, early 20s, you had an idea of either what you wanted to do for a living, and then as your time working for yourself continued, had a really good idea of where it is you wanted to go in terms of the body of work you wanted to create as well. So it's been really lovely to see that start to come to fruition.
Thanks, brother. Thank you.
That's it. I think we can finish.
Cool. Yeah. All right, that's good.
Thanks for listening to Jobsworth. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like and subscribe. You can stay connected by following me on LinkedIn for more insights on the world of work, behind the scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. We're already thinking about guests for season 2, so if there is a particular topic you'd like us to discuss, then please send in your suggestions to hello@jobsworth.com.